Hello, I'm Walt Bartman. I'm the founder and director of the Yellow Barn Studio, Glen Echo. And, we're going to interview Bjorn Borchert, who's one of our instructors, a very popular instructor, by the way, teaches both watercolor and drawing. And so she was selected to be the judge for this coming year, the 2024 annual high school competition that we sponsor. Okay, and I think the every year we try to recognize a lot of the top students in the area. It's open to anyone from through the state of Maryland, Virginia, and DC. And the work has always been exceptional. And so I know that Vion had a challenge to pick the winners. So I think that this is one of the things just for everyone to realize that this is a strong competitive a body of work that you're going to see. And the students who didn't get into the show, just want to say to you, truthfully, we can only pick 40, but there's so many really good artists, and it's not to be discouraged at all. Just know that sometimes that's the way it is. But if anything, Vion's going to give her opinion as to why she chose what she did, and that'll help everyone to understand, her criteria for selecting work. So I'm going to introduce Vion now. Vion, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. The friends are really happy to have you as a judge. They year sponsor this event and give away thousands of dollars. So I think this is one of the real popular things about our studio, being able to just recognize these young kids. So do you want to speak about yourself, first of all, so everybody can get an idea of who you are, and then we'll go from there.
So I'm an artist and an art educator. I'm a notable alumni from the Corcoran College of Art and Design, George Washington University. And I've been teaching at the Yellow Barn for, I would say, since 2012, and practicing professional artist for like 20 years. And I love art. Art is my life, my lifestyle, and I believe in the power of art, making, spreading the good within society, and the creativity, which is a very important aspect in someone's life. And you can see my artwork on my website, which is vionborchert.com. I've juried a number of shows, the Brookside Gardens, and I've also curated, independent curator, for a number of group shows as well with worldwide artists. And I've done multitude, let's put it, multifaceted aspects of the fine art for many years. I've written on art also for many, many years as well. And yeah, as I said, I love art, and I love spreading my art, and I love spreading art in general throughout, and seeing also the raising and the budding artists that have so much talent, and encouraging them also in their path as well. I also teach at the Yellow Barn Studio. I teach watercolor painting that starts next week, April 29, and I also teach drawing class starts early May, also at the Yellow Barn Studio, and yeah, I enjoy doing what I do. I'm a painter primarily, and I also love to draw as well. So I think, as I said, the multitude of art can bring so many different aspects to one's personality and open up a lot of different creative channels within the mind. So art is very essential for the brain, a great, very good for cognitive abilities. So yeah, continue doing art. And if you haven't, try to do art.
Yeah. Well, this is it. And we have each year we pick a very important judge, one that has a lot of experience and really knows art and in general, and especially painting, because that's what our focus is in this competition. And you know, you're one of those. I mean, you know, it's really great to have you. I hope everybody understands that, you know, she selected the work based on her feelings, okay, and her perspective. And I think that she comes with you know, quite a reputation as being an outstanding artist. So this way you're going to get some feedback today, and that's what's going to be really good. So let's do this. Let's go on to the show. I'm going to share the screen right now. All right, and everybody's going to see. I believe you're seeing it, right, Dion?
Yes, I see it. Yeah.
So you're seeing the.
Mhm.
This is what, by the way, for everybody that's not aware of the Friends of the Yellow Barn Studio.org. Okay, if you go to that website, you're going to see this show. And this is the work that was submitted, and this is the work that Vion chose as being one of the top 40 pieces in the show. So I think she's going to tell you a lot more about why she chose the work, and you know, and so if anything, now you get an idea of what the show looks like. And you know, thanks to the Friends of the Yellow Barn, by the way, every year they sponsor this show with the intention of really supporting young talent, really trying to get people to really understand the importance of the arts, and to recognize the students that really achieved some outstanding work. So here we go, Vion. I think we're going to start with the winners. I guess this is how we're going to do it, because they're up first.
That's good. Yeah.
So we should perhaps maybe just give us some feedback as to the show, perhaps, and then how did you perceive the show, by the way, before we start talking about the individual work?
So when we had around like 100 something, like a good amount of artists submitting from the DMV, it was open to all DC, Maryland, Virginia students who go to public school, private school, and homeschool. So it was open to a lot of students. And it was really nice to see so much talent coming in. I think that's the thing that I was very happy to see, because you really see enthusiasm and love for art through the submissions. Again, we only could have selected just 40 from the number of, but the works were very, very good. Now the winners that I chose have something extra. So that's why I felt that these are the top winners. But in general, all the work was exceptional. All the work was very insightful. And all the work was very also a lot of thought has been put into the artwork. So that's what I liked about the show and the artwork in general, that I felt that you really can feel that the person really put a lot of thought into the composition, into the whole just composition and theme and concept. So, for example, this is the winner, Feeding Silence, and in general, the first and the second and the third winner, like I would say, they're top winners. But all of them have one thing in common, which is the composition is very, very strong. So it goes beyond just looking at something and making a copy of it, or making like looking at a still life and just making a rendering of it. So it's there's a multitude or a combination of not only skill, which is clearly shown in this example, absolute skill as a painter, but also a thought of composition, a thought of a narrative too. So this one, definitely you look at it and you start thinking, what's happening here? It's very deep, Feeding Silence. So even the title is very deep. So there's a lot of depth in this painting. Just everything is almost immaculate, from the tie, the rendering of the tie, the floral tie, and then the jacket, the vest, the white shirt. But again, there's a lot of depth. So you feel that the artist has almost silently is trying to tell us something through the art. So it's not through words, more of a visual kind of message here. And so I felt that everything, as I said, the fork, the knife. So these are difficult compositions in general to make. The reflective element of the plates, and the student did them masterfully. I mean, this is one talented kid who definitely has a very bright future, in my opinion, if he continues in this direction. So this piece, it could be easily in a gallery. I mean, it's so well executed, well thought of. Has People can gather around this painting and have a conversation, and everyone can bring something different to the table. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like you probably have a different like you would talk. I would assume that's a heart. You would talk about that. You would say, what is that man thinking? Why is there blood coming through? But again, the direction of like the blood in a certain way, it creates also movement. So there is not only skill, there are many variations. Also the contrast, the black and the white. The fact that the heads are a little bit chopped off, okay, but then you see a little bit of blood. There are a lot of, and then the repetition also. You see the blood within like the forehead, but then also the waiter has blood on his hand. So you start, in a way, one can say he is maybe looking at society. So what I liked about the show is I really felt that the children are um, beyond extremely talented. They're full of thought. They're full of ideas. They're full of also maybe observations on things and wanting to say something about it. Yeah, very, I would say, very well rounded in many shapes and forms. Um, this piece, I kept going back to it. I kept going back to it. It was between the first and the second, but I've said that this piece has something very, like it's almost draws you in. It can be a bit disturbing, but at the same time, one should also understand that like all art, um, not only just beautiful art, but also art sometimes can be tough or can have a message that is very deep or very heavy. I would say that's a heavy message, but at the same time, it can be very well done and very skilled and very interesting and a winner. You know, so that's one thing also that I believe what I liked about this piece. I felt it's very brave, and I felt one has to merit and like see that the artist was willing to be raw, willing to be completely raw through their artwork. And I felt that definitely something that should be awarded in that as well. So beyond the skill, beyond the composition, you felt that the artist was very brave in this composition to kind of execute such a painting. And that's also what art is about. Art is about truthfulness as well, and being honest. And clearly, it came through very well. And it is definitely a winner in so many ways. Yeah, so that's one thing that with this piece, as I said, it's a brave piece. It's a very brave, yeah, piece.
And you're brave as the judge to pick this piece because when we look at the challenges, this is deeply psychological, and
Yes, yes,
you
that's
feel
true.
the underlying power of it. And I think that that's sometimes judges miss that. All right,
Yeah,
it's
that's
artwork.
true.
They look at the visual, but they don't look at the psychological. And I think,
Right.
this speaks strongly of that. So this is Seoing Lee, I believe, from McLean High School in Virginia. First time that I think McLean has won an award like this. So it's really an honor, and to the teacher, Swanapa Elias. So yeah, thank you all for submitting your work. All right, so now the next one is Thoughts by
Oh,
Will
yeah.
Picoult. Albert Einstein. You want to say anything about?
Yeah, I also love this piece very much. So it was, you can tell that these pieces, this one is more subtle, the other one's more like, uh, I wouldn't say in your face, but it's like much more subtle, but also it's about the psychology of the mind, all the thoughts that occupy the mind, but also one can say all the thoughts that clutter the mind as well. So you see, and it has expression. It has a little bit of a sad expression, but nevertheless, I think again, commending the artists and the students, especially at such a budding age, to be this brave, right? And to visually translate maybe how they feel about certain something, or maybe the world around them, or maybe what's inside their. Here, I would say the more the thoughts that occupy the mind, because it's about the thoughts. And so to be brave, to put themselves out there visually, I think that they're very much, in my opinion, very much commended to do such a thing. So again, it is dark. I would say the colors even are dark, more brown and black. But then the face is very light, so you've got that compositional contrast happening. You've got a lot of profiles going this way, going that way. But again, that helps in creating a better composition. And then you've got the frontal also looking at it. So you see at least 4 faces in this piece. So it has definitely surrealistic aspects, I would say, because it's more like maybe dreams, but I think more than dreams, and maybe even nightmares for that matter. So yeah, and then the swirls of the hair going into the swirls of the mind, and almost you see windows, shut windows, open windows. So a lot of similar to the first piece, a little bit more shy in a way, though. It feels like this piece is more shy, but again, through the hair and through the mind, you've got the blooming of thoughts, but also maybe what really occupies the mind. And so, yeah, throughout the show, I've noticed that the batch of artwork that was sent in really clearly had a psychological feel. And so it tells you what our youth are thinking, but also, and a lot of figurative work too. So I've noticed a good amount of figurative work. I think sometimes some of these pieces are also the self-portrait of what the person thinks. So I'm assuming this is how a self-portrait of the artist herself, and what occupies the mind. Yeah. So this is what I liked about this piece. In so many, and the colors are very muted, so a very specific palette, which is good, by the way. Sometimes having a very muted palette or a very limited palette creates also compositionally very, I would say, unified kind of work. So in this regard, it really works very well. You've got also complementary colors, the blue and a bit of that orange yellow happening. Yeah, so, and very well painterly done too. So it has a lot of elements to it. It does create a sense, when you look at a work like this, it creates a sense of emotion as well, a mood. I think that's the right way of saying it. So these pieces do create a specific mood. One can say, okay, this one might be a bit sad. So just the expression itself creates that sadness, but that's what effective artwork does. Effective artwork creates a mood. If we look at Picasso's early work, in the Blue period, they're all kind of sad. I mean, so we look at it, and that's what an effective artist does. Creates a sense of mood. It creates through colors, through expression, through a certain pose, through the way again, the model or the person or the self-portrait is looking down rather than looking up, smiling. So there's a lot of elements involved in at least the winners, what I picked, and it's not only just a beautiful, painterly, well executed piece. There's more to it. So in a sense, one can say there's more that meets the eye with these work. It's not only visually interesting, but also you start thinking, oh, what was the artist thinking? What's happening? So definitely there's a psychology in this one as well. Beyond the fact that it's really very, very well done, very beautifully done, the painterly in so many ways, and then yeah, very effective.
Yeah, I think that this is another piece that honestly, when I looked at the body of work that the students submitted to, it's beautifully designed, has an interesting temperature to it. And I think the transparencies, also the way that the paint's applied really is fascinating. And I think, you made a good choice here. Again,
Thank you.
touched on the psychological aspect of the importance of that element in painting. And I think there's a depth here to the work that's been submitted. When we look at the general, work that's been submitted, it has a very deep psychological aspect
Right.
behind a lot of the pieces. All right, it might be the age, that's it too.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the next one. This is What Are You Looking At by Cecilia Holdo from Holton Arms. Ben Ferry was the teacher.
I like this one a lot. I kept kind of going back to it, and it kind of drew me in. It has the baby has such an interesting expression on the face. It really definitely. I'm thinking the baby is not really in a happy mood. Okay, so but the artist really captured it nicely, like a little grumpy, and so tantrumy perhaps, a little bit on the verge of throwing a tantrum. But nevertheless, this piece is there has so many aspects to it. So what differs this piece, one can look at it and smile a little bit because the baby's a little bothered. It has a little bit of attitude. But again, that's the skill here that the artist managed to bring across that attitude kind of expression through the work. And we really feel that the baby's not, yeah, the baby's not is rather bothered by something. But the composition is wonderful. What I loved, I kept going back to this piece and looking at the background actually, which is like the green. And I thought the green is so well done. Just the grass, I'm assuming, behind, or the vegetation behind the baby. It reminded me of Joan Mitchell's work, who's an abstract expressionist artist, American abstract expressionist artist. And you see her work in big museums like the Smithsonian and the National Gallery of Fine Arts. So just looking just at the background with the different greens, which again is a color that a lot of people have a hard time with, and how painterly it's done, and different kind of brush marks and different strokes. But again, it creates that almost like turmoil kind of feeling, the tantrum kind of like the baby's about to be. And it just, but the fact that the strokes kind of stop, so it's not like finishing the whole, so enough suggestive strokes to give you, wow, this is a good artist, or this artist has a lot of talent, as a painter especially, and has definitely a bright future. Now, and the fact that it's more like, I wouldn't say haphazardly, but more loosely done, considering it's a background. Whereas when you go back to the baby's face, that's very well done. I go to the eyes right away. I mean, the eyes here are really drawing us, bringing us near, looking into the baby, kind of having, the eyebrows kind of like frowning a bit, but the cheeks of the baby too. So capturing the babies in so many interesting ways. Look how a baby, like big cheeks and the bigger forehead, but also the fact that it's very painterly done. Also, I like the fact that the artist didn't decide to do like the hands very, very well. Like, for example, she decided to leave that, not go into like doing like the nails or the fingers. So there's thought into that as well to make a composition be painterly, but also it has a very impressionistic feel. So it could be like, if we squint a little bit, it could be something like in Monet's garden, like a child in Monet's garden. And Monet did a lot of paintings of also children in his garden. And young children as well. So I like the fact, again, I feel that the juxtaposition also and the placement, that's a very good choice when it comes to placement. The fact that the baby, you see one leg, the other one, not really, it kind of, it's almost like you took a photo of the baby and then maybe that's what it was. They took a photo of the baby and they did the painting. But the cropping is very well done, if we have to say, rather than say including every single thing. So deciding, so what I personally think also is very essential in making a good artist in general is decision making of what to include and what not to include. So that's something I believe a lot of students come to our classes because sometimes they don't know when they should stop, what to include, what not to include, and that's where we, obviously, the professionals, are here to help. So um, um, the fact that, as I said, one leg is not added in or like it's like cropped, what to include and what not to include, that is also very, very essential in making a composition very a skilled, a good one, effective one. Yeah, so I like the impressionistic strokes on this one a lot. I like the fact that they're loose, but they're big also. You can feel like they're big strokes. So, and the artist really played a lot with the strokes, giving the feeling of movement, giving the feeling of also a little bit of turmoil, a little bit, which again goes back to the expression of the baby. So there are a lot of elements in this piece that kind of bring a smile, but at the same time, again, it's very well executed in so many ways. Definitely a great, I would say, definitely, yeah, a great path for especially they continue painting. So I see a lot of painterly aspects in this one that I really like.
Yeah, this is a beauty because it doesn't feel forced, it feels fresh. And,
Yes, exactly.
you
Yeah.
know, it captures our attention, you know, and the color combinations are quite nice, the violet against the green. So,
Violet, beautiful. Yeah.
so I think that everything worked quite well here, the balance and everything, you know, the brush
Even
stroke.
the
Yeah,
shoes of the, I mean, very, very well done. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very natural piece. All right,
Yes.
so then the next one is
Yeah.
called Parrot, and it's Emily Gogan. She's from Northwest High School, and her teacher's Tessa Seward.
Yeah, I love this one too. So this one has so much skill, and I believe it's charcoal, maybe also some graphite as well. But I teach drawing, and we do still life, and we also do birds. And birds are very, in my opinion, like there's so much one can do with birds, and the fact that the bird is really like the parrot is really looking at us, but also the choice of composition as well, and you can tell that um, there's so much thought that went into creating the still life to start with. So it's not with the ropes, and I'm assuming these are wooden blocks, and then the doorknob and the stripes. I think the stripes really make the composition here too. You've got the vertical stripes kind of bring your eye down, and then you've got the wood blocks with the horizontal stripes, and then you've got the pattern within the parrot's feathers, which is horizontal, and then you go back to the vertical stripes. So composition wise, has so many like geometric lines, I would say, but these are very essential geometric lines in making the composition altogether work superbly. So there's a lot of skill, in this piece, and definitely a winner. And it's again limited. You've got the black and the white, so you have it's a drawing too, so it's a different medium than brush. So you get a lot of line marks happening. Very careful line marks. A good amount of work. So I would say this is yeah, a lot of time went into creating this piece. And yeah, in so many ways, this is a winner.
You know, it has a feeling like Joseph Cornell, where you have these different elements in relationship to one another, but the
Yeah.
structure is really interesting. It's almost like a totem where you have the things built one on top of the other. And so you really feel that strong vertical.
Right.
Well done, well done. All right,
Yeah.
so the next one is this one, which is another honorable mention by Max Zonov, and he's from Albert Einstein, and his teacher's Sarah Harnish.
Yeah, this one, it feels like, like a small piece, but it has so much beauty to it. Russian beauty, it's called. And so this one goes beyond just a portrait painting. Okay, so you can see just from the portrait itself, the execution very well executed when it comes to the painterly quality too. More impressionistic. So you've got the bigger brush strokes, but you've got a lot of symmetry happening within the face, but also the whole piece has a lot of symmetry and very, very well thought of, very well executed, very ornate. One can say it falls also, so it goes beyond fine art. It can also fall more in a decorative a little bit element to it, but the face is so painterly and so fine art. It kind of draws different and marries together, let's say, a lot of different elements. One can say crafts as well, of the different genres of art. So collage, I would say, a lot of beads, so a lot of bead work. So that is definitely very time consuming. And the fact that it is very symmetric to having almost the butterfly effect of making one side the same like the other side, and then like a crown almost on top. So very decorative in so many elements. But again, the face is so well executed when it comes to the painterly skill here. And yeah, I think this is so much work, but at the same time, there's a lot of thought. Again, one can say it has to do with the mind as well. So a lot of pieces seem to be like what's springing from the mind, what's blooming, what the person is thinking about. And this one really, in so many ways, is very intricate. Let's put this, it's very intricate, very well done. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you picked a really interesting one here. Reads very, very well. I mean, it visually reads, and I think that the space in it and the depth of looking down and the
Right.
decorative nature of the choice of a circle, which was really interesting.
Yeah.
Also, everything works here. So, yeah, good choice. So then the next one. This one is Grandpa Jack, honorable mention, Penelope Hager from Albert Einstein. Again, Sarah Harnish is the teacher.
Yeah, she's doing a good job. The students really, I mean, their talent is really blooming and it comes across very strongly. I think that's and this one you really feel the love for the grandfather, and I kept kind of going back to it, kept going back to it. So when I was making the choices of the winners, and there's something about the pose, a very strong pose, but very I would say confident, right? But the pose and that creates confidence, but also the piece itself is very confident, very strong. Um, Interestingly, I feel like the rendering is a little bit different, that the background is rendered differently than the figure itself. So the background, if one can squint, can say, oh, could be a Gustav Klimt's landscape. It has a lot of strokes, but there are a lot of colors and a lot of layers. But the face is kind of done in the same way with a lot of like the flesh tones. But in a way, also one can say there are a lot of flesh tones that give the suggestion of like what occupies the mind or what's going on. So it's a very still piece with his pose is very controlled or composed. That's the right way of saying it. It's very composed, um, but also there seems to be like there's a lot of strength. So she's definitely portraying her grandpa or this figure for let's say in a very confident way, a very composed and very confident way. And the fact that it's also outdoor, rather than, let's say, a portrait within a studio or portrait within an interior setting, gives it almost like a very dreamy feel, or like you feel like it's a fall landscape kind of behind him, or a land or a farm. I'm assuming it's probably a farm. So that's what I gather behind. But the way the grandpa's portrayed, he's very strong, he's very composed, in a very loving way as well. The hands are crossed. Again, that's a good choice of composition. The hands are crossed. The red shirt is very strong, and the red sweater that helps also visually to bring the grandpa more towards us, the foreground, and having more of like the lighter yellow hues and tones further in the background to depict, it looks like a fallish kind of landscape to me, like a fall autumn kind of landscape. And out on the farm, maybe it's his farm. So yeah, I feel like, again, there's a narrative. So I feel like most of the winners, they're not just like well executed artwork, a beautiful painterly job. There's also a narrative. There's definitely a story, and we can also bring our like imagination as well and create, maybe start thinking, as I said, maybe it's his ranch or his farm, and he's standing on a fall day, and she captured that very nicely.
Yeah, beautiful portrait. I mean, when you look at
The lips are nice. I mean,
yeah,
it's
the whole
nice eyeglasses. Yeah.
feeling of it really captured the personality. All right, so then this is Maps, and it's by Adelaide Trevelyan, and she's from Albert Einstein, and her teacher's Meganette Harris. So
Yeah. I like this one. I thought it's interesting. I feel like the map is a collage, but the rest of the painting is a painting. So very. But I also like the fact that it's almost like ghost-like. So again, so most of this work is very well done, very well, like there's a lot of skill. These children are really talented. They have a lot of skill, but I think they went beyond just a skill and a talent, and very well done painting. They brought a lot of imagination to the work, and that's what I liked. Again, the bravery of saying, I want to push the envelope a little bit, bring something else, or introduce something different. So I would say the collage here is definitely a different element, and the fact that she decided to almost like have the body of the map come across the body of the girl, it's kind of telling in a way. One can make stories of like maybe the origins of the artist, or maybe the sitter itself, and what's on her mind, maybe traveling in the future, or travels she's been to, or part of her identity. So there are a lot of elements when it comes to this work. I like the very nice golden line that kind of crosses and goes on the map, but also crosses through the hair and goes on all over the body as well. The fact that the colors are very muted, also like a very like light tones of lavender and purple, and throughout the figure, almost makes the figure looks like a ghost, like it could look almost nostalgic, or something from the 1920s. So there are a lot of elements to it. And the fact, though, giving the background blue, having it all flat, and then we've got the map. So the piece is not busy. The artist is aware, this budding artist is aware that I have like decided not to overdo it when it comes to like giving too much. So enough suggestion to give a narrative, but at the same time, visually not overcrowding. And I think that's something as well that some artists might do too much of, overcrowding with the composition, that it's like, where should I look? But this one is really helpful with it, especially with the golden line. It almost draws your eyes to her eyes, which are very beautiful. So again, similar to the baby, especially when we have figurative artwork, the eyes are like the windows to the soul. In this piece, they really speak. They really draw you in. So yeah, when it comes to, so there again, a good amount of figurative work, but all of them are very well executed. The fact that there's half of the face is in shadow, the other part is not. So very well done when it comes to the features and bringing them through very well.
And it's beautifully shapes when you look at the rhythm of the shapes in this piece.
Rhythm, yeah, that's
One
true.
of
Yeah.
the things that's really quite nice as well. But you touch on a lot of good aspects. People are listening to you speak about these works, and truthfully, it says a lot about the fact you gave it a lot of thought when you were judging this show, and you picked out some really excellent pieces. So this is another honorable mention by Emerson Poole. He's from Holton Arms, and his teacher is Ben Fair.
So this one is also
Her, I guess it's a female. Emerson must be a female. So
okay.
it's Ben's over at Holton Arms, and that's a girls school. So yep. So anyhow, so
yeah.
that.
Yeah, this piece reminds me, I think this piece captures the young generation very nicely. Because sometimes kids take pictures of each other, right? And they're like, making heart shapes and making faces. So I think this one is a good depiction of also capturing the generation and what they're doing. And they do, I mean, that's part of the generation. They're taking the selfies, they're sending the photos to each other, and this one I feel like the artist captured Tamsin, portrait of Tamsin, in a like kind of like she's being I don't know if she's making a face, but she's yeah, definitely has attitude too. So I like the fact that we have pieces that are again that are very honest and raw and saying, hey, I want to capture my friend this way, rather than say, oh, a smile and like looking happy or looking very elegant. So a very brave approach to doing artwork. I like the fact that it feels like it's very thinned down, like oil almost. I would say it's an oil piece. Yeah, it's very thinned down. And again, it has a little bit of this like capturing the moment very quickly, a fleeting moment where she made that reaction or like a gesture, a certain like face. So trying through the colors, you feel like it's almost a Polaroid that doesn't have much colors to it. So the thinning of the oil paint really helps the composition to give it a certain mood and to make it look like it's a capture of a fleeting moment for that matter. I like the T-shirt also. So you really can almost envision a teenager reacting or doing in this pose as well. So it has a lot of aspects to it. Like the fact the hand comes to us closer. So they played with the foreground, background kind of very nicely. Again, the muted background. The hand is, since it is closer to us, it's just a little bit bigger. So you've got a bit of that depth happening also with the thinning of the paint. And then the lower part is more darker. So there are a lot of thought that went into, rather than saying everything has to be the same tone of the same density. So here, thinning the background a little bit gives it more depth. So although it is a figure, but the fact that it's a great choice to say, I want to thin a little bit the background, the upper part of it, to create more depth for the piece. I think that really made the composition. I think that's what drew me to it as well. How it's executed is that it's more thinly done rather than very heavy application. So and again, it reflects the fleeting quick moment that this image was captured. Yeah, very brave too.
Yeah, it's a very interesting piece. Like you touched on it. It's really like a Polaroid. It has that feeling of, what kids would do if they went into one of those little photo booths, how they would make faces
Right.
or that. It's really a very natural thing, which I think not like the high school yearbooks for sure. So
No.
you touched on that, you know, it's really
Yeah.
great. So then the next one, these are now the pieces that you chose for the
Selected,
show.
yeah.
And we don't need to have a long explanation of them. But
Mm.
maybe perhaps because the students were selected, perhaps maybe touch on a few things that the reason that you might have chose this piece.
So this piece, again, narrative. So I do feel that the pieces that really beyond, let's say, a very well executed painterly painting or drawing, I think these young artists showed excellence in also delivering a storyline. Okay, so they went beyond, okay, this is a very pretty rendering of a still life. So they went beyond that and they delivered a narrative. And this one is definitely a storyline. I'm not going to really write a story, a children's book story about just this painting. There's intimacy. So I think that's something that sometimes we don't see, maybe in art. So this one has captured intimacy very, very nicely, but also a love for the cat, an intimate moment, between the boy and his pet cat. So there's definitely a lot of, like, maybe the boy is sad and the cat is trying to cheer him up. So there are, yeah, one can say there are a lot of elements how a pet can actually make one's life better, help when you're down. And I do think that that's what comes through as well. Beyond the fact that it's an interesting composition. He's sitting on I would say a counter, and he's looking a little sad because he's looking down. But the cat comes and tries to cheer him up, and I think, yeah, there's definitely a story here. Yeah.
And then the next one.
Yeah, I felt that um, beautiful print work. What I like to see is the different variety of artwork that was submitted. So not necessarily only painting and drawing, but also printmaking. And this one is very beautifully done, a crow, and then you've got the motifs of the flower, the repetition, part of the petals also on the wood. And yeah, definitely a lot of the vertical lines, the horizontal lines, and then they've got the curvy lines of the crow, all helping, and like the movement of the floral petals, and the branch really helps in regards to the composition as well.
Yeah, it's a
Limited,
really
of course,
interesting
palette.
piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this piece.
I like this piece a lot. Also, what occupies the mind. So I felt that most of the work that really stood out, although there are a lot of figurative work, so it tells you that the young or the youth really like to do self-portraits, and the self-portraits are very reflective of what they're thinking. So in a way, one can say these are petals of roses, and they're blooming with ideas. There are a lot of ideas happening. Maybe good ideas, maybe bad ideas. I mean, there are like so many different ideas happening. But I also like the choice of colors, the complementary colors. You've got the yellow and the purple. So great choice of colors. Again, very well done in regards to like painterly aspects of the piece. Yeah.
Okay, and then the next one.
So I felt this is a very, very good rendering of a still life of two pears. Excellent, excellent still life. And the fact that one pair is like down and one pair is up, and then you've got the fabric underneath it, which is very beautifully. Again, it's not very tightly done. It's very loosely done, very impressionistic. So I would say following the footsteps of the French Impressionist. Yeah, I like this composition. It's simple, but it's very effective when it comes to composition of two pairs. Yeah.
It's a beautifully painted piece for sure.
Yes.
And then here's another looks like a linoleum print.
Yeah, I think there are a number of prints that I picked that I thought reflected very well on the portraits of the children and how they portray themselves through this very limited, I would say, printmaking medium. But you've got the contrast, so one can say one side is light, one side is dark, kind of goes right in the middle of the head, which maybe tells you again the ideas that come through, the bright ideas and other ideas. So I do think that there are a lot of elements of psychology, especially when we start seeing more figurative work.
Mhm. And then the next one.
Same thing. I think this is very well rendered, very beautifully rendered. Again, the choice of saying I want to keep one side light and one side darken it a little bit makes it good as a composition. The contrast in art really helps. I tell that to the students all the time. Sometimes you have to darken something, lighten something to make a piece really stand out and be effective. So a lot of thought went into creating this piece when it comes to limited palette, but what to juxtapose, right? What to put next to each other when it comes to shading and colors that make a piece more powerful. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then this one.
So similar to the pears, the onions, the red onions, could be a very I mean, this could be something that we see like more like the old masters or I would say the impressionist artists have done. So very well done. Onions are not easy to paint. So many layers. So choosing such a composition, but doing it beautifully for that matter, is definitely commendable. Let's put it this way. And the fact I like the wall too. The wall feels very rugged, and with the splatters that helps a lot. So the choice to do the splatters already made the piece very, very effective and like a winner for that matter. Beyond just the smoothness of the skin of the onions, the splatters and the roughness of the wall really helps this piece.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? And so immediate. I mean, it's really quite nice. And then this one.
This one also is similar to the portrait of Tamsin. Is reflective of the generation of what they do. This feels almost like this I would say has like a technical aspect to it, technology. So technology looks like it's a good portion of this piece, and what the children are doing in our day and age. So I do think it's very reflective of the generation. So I like this piece. It's also very like she's looking right into us, and so it's very brave and honest and raw as well. Yeah.
You touched on something that I think is real important, and that is your art is of your time, and this really speaks of that. So
Yes.
that's another aspect. Really a neat piece here. Cozy Clutter. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, this one I like it a lot. I went back to it, I kept looking at it and going back to it. I do love the angles. I like the fact of like you almost feel like you're sitting at the desk looking at this. So the perspective. So the perspective is very good. The perspective of the artist sitting and saying, okay, I just don't, again, cropping the whole folder, not putting the whole folder, cropping the fan, and the fact it's kind of like not super neat also. Not everything is immaculately put in place. So it is busy, but then you've got the walls and the table that kind of take away from what's happening. But you really can see that someone is literally sitting at their desk, a student, and this is what they're looking at. So, oh, clutter, see, cozy clutter, and what's their world, how their desk looks like, and again, it's a reflection of a student and the students over our day and age, and their working space. Let's put it this way, yeah, and very beautifully executed with a charcoal and very limited palette, obviously, and that helps a lot.
Yeah, this is a really special drawing for sure. And then this piece, interesting, very interesting.
This piece, I also kept going back to it because I was thinking, oh, this piece is interesting. It can be a little bit disturbing. But again, creates, that makes it what it is, right? So some of the pieces are brave. I think that's the right word of saying it. They're very courageous, they're very brave. They're like, what is the person thinking? The fact, I don't know if it's a self-portrait in an interesting way, but it has a lot of, it pushes the boundaries. It's really, and it feels to me, it has a very surrealistic element. That's why I picked it as well, because I wanted to show it's not just a depiction, a great depiction of a well-executed painting. Art can also fall into different genres. Like surrealism is very something that not too many people do, but when done well, it creates a lot of thought. It creates a lot of yeah, it makes you think like, what's happening here? What's the composition? And yes, and surrealism can border on, when we think of Dali's work with the giraffe with the fire and the back, and then they're like ants and on piano. So there's an interesting juxtaposition, but also the choice of proportion is very interesting here too. A small like looking in, looking out kind of thing. So there's a lot of psychology involved in this one. The same, I would say in an interesting way, it's a different form of a portrait, self-portrait. So rather than just a face, seeing oneself in multiple different aspects. So that's why I picked this piece. I kept going back to it and I said, this piece is different. It's
Yeah,
different. So it has a
great.
lot of surrealistic qualities to it.
Okay, and then this particular piece.
What occupies the mind as well. So the fragments of being, see the title tells you. So I do think that, as I said, most of this has some collage as well. It's more like, again, I feel like a lot of them have to do with identity and how, they look at themselves and how they relate maybe to their heritage and looking forward in the future. So a lot of very well executed. I mean, the portrait is beautifully done. But also what clutters their mind as well. One can see that.
Yeah, and then
Close up, it's a close up piece. I think the artist here wanted to play with the different, so this goes beyond just a portrait, playing with the different like eyeballs, the nose. So there's thought that went into it, and saying, I just wanted to do one zooming into a specific portion of the face rather than the whole face. Just some of the hair falling and framing also the picture, that helps as well.
yeah, so a very interesting spatial piece. And
Yeah.
then another one of these linoleum cuts. It's
This piece, the 3/4 of the face, and looking more in a dreamy colors. Again, limited palette helps a lot in the composition. I like the hoodie a lot, and so it has it has nice elements to it.
yeah,
Definitely yeah, very good piece.
well done. And then this particular piece.
I like that a lot. Yeah. So this is, in my opinion, also like a good winner for that matter. The choice of just doing a knife and butter, and the reflective elements of the whole thing, the knife. The colors also, they're complementary colors, so that also always helps in making artwork. Tell the students this a lot of times in making composition work. Very, not an easy composition, to be frank, but very well done.
Yeah, and this one is really kind of interesting. When you talk in terms of the subject, I mean, it's really a fascinating subject to paint.
Yeah, what we eat.
Yeah,
That's very, very good.
yeah,
Helps.
yeah, this is quite nice. And then this one.
Yeah, charcoal piece, very nice. I mean, very well, very smooth. So you can tell that the artist went like played with the charcoal or the medium and graphite as well, and softened it very nicely. There's the way the fingers are like the eye kind of like popping through. That's also the choice of doing that. The cropping is very important too in this piece. There are, again, one can create a story. Is the person surprised, or they're thinking, or they want to see something but they don't want to see it? So there's that element as well going into this piece, looking up as well. So there's yeah, definitely a storyline happening here as well.
Yeah, you can really feel, the surface of the figures on the face. It's really quite well done.
Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah, and then this one, Electrode.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. And it has. I like the fact that it's not completely finished. So the choice of sometimes not finishing something makes the piece, to be frank, rather than overdoing it. So overdoing it, a lot of artists go beyond the just finishing and they overdo it, and the piece looks fussy or heavy or difficult to look at visually. This one is still fresh in that sense, where you really feel the singer singing, and it has geometric elements if you look at the hands. So also the dress or the shirt, it has a lot of geometric elements, which I think makes the piece work, in my opinion. I also like the fact how painterly the background has been done in regards to the figure. It's not super painterly, it's more geometrically. It feels like the figure has almost like drawing aspects, whereas the background is more painterly. So interesting choices in this piece, and the microphone is beautifully done as well. So yeah, I liked it a lot. This piece, yeah. What occupies the mind? Yeah. So again, I think this show really reflects on the young generation and what they're thinking and what's happening with their thoughts, and how they're looking into the future, how they're looking into their identity themselves. And this one is called What I See. So you see, so it has a lot of imagination. I think this person has a lot of imagination. So different elements. We would say the figure, the background is very painterly, but then the thoughts that occupy, or the jumping around or revolving around, they look like it could be different way or different style of art. So I like that aspect of bringing two different things almost into one piece.
And then
so same to the piece we just saw, with the charcoal, beautiful rendering. I love the hair here. I mean, you're just capturing the highlight of the hair. Also the twinkle, the brightness of the eye. They've got the shadow of the butterfly within the eye. That's really neat. So yeah, so very, very well done work here. Very, very talented students with definitely a bright, bright future. Yeah.
there's a wonderful body of work. Okay, you look at the quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this one.
So same thing. I mean, these are very young artists who are showcasing extreme talent and extreme ability of working with different mediums, and really rendering them beautifully. Here's very soft rendering. But again, the face is kind of like portion is like in shadow. So playing with that as well. 3/4 of the face, the portrait, and it has then the golden rings like twinkling too. That helps a lot with the composition. Choices of where to apply color and not where to apply color is also very helpful. It makes this piece a winner as well. I mean, a really good, effective piece. I like this one. It's very playful. So I also kept going back to, there's certain pieces that are similar to the surrealistic one. I kept kind of going back to them and looking at them, because I do think they go beyond just an interesting piece. They kind of have their own genre, or they open up a portal. I think that's the right thing. They open up a portal for more thought that makes them very distinguished. And same with this one, it has collages. I like the way the eyes are done, the freckles on the face, the hair kind of swirling up and creating, again, what's occupying the mind. And the charcoal rendering, and the graphite, I would say, the graphite rendering is very, very nicely done. Yeah. So collage piece. I love the fact they added a necklace to it. So yeah, I think this show is great because it's very reflective of uh, w- what the young budding artists are thinking and how they're deciding to go about the subject matter and what choices they do. A self-portrait of a clown. The clown is crying. You almost see the yeah, the teardrop, um, and just the position, just the fact, the gesture of and the figure itself, the twist, almost looking back or almost sad but looking back. Um, so yeah, and the swirliness around or the line around the head brings that golden color to the necklace. So there's a lot of thought that went into how can I unify the piece and make it look good as a composition as well, not just the expression itself. Um, Limited colors to the whole violet kind of purple hues. A lot of purple hues here, right? I see a lot of purple hues. Yeah.
Yeah.
Onions. Onions are winners. Definitely. Again, the juxtaposition of the onions, the rugged background, the splatter on the wall on just a little bit gives enough. The shadows, the glowness also of the yellow onions here. And it's almost like golden effect happening. The way that they went around the contour of the onion, how they decided to put the brush marks, that's really skillful. So I would say this very good painter. Lots of painterly skills went into that, and then muted colors too. You've got a lot of different shades of gray, but really pretty gray. A
Yeah.
lot of play, with the paint work here.
Yeah, this is really, exceptionally painted well. I mean, when you look at the age of the student.
Oh, this is for
uh,
young. I mean, this is like even for an adult, this is
yeah,
exceptional.
it's exceptional. And then this piece.
Yeah, this piece is also golden hour. You can tell that there's a lot of thought that went into creating the composition and saying, okay, hold the flower this way, and then putting the teapot and the pose itself or where to sit to make the painting. So a lot of thought went into creating this artwork, and I like that. And it's very skillfully done as well. So I would say this piece is almost perfect in so many shapes. Very, very beautifully done.
Yeah, I'm impressed with this piece because of the way we look up, that
Right.
depth that's created. And then just the combination of cool against the warm, I think, is really that reddish color against the grays behind it.
Yeah, the grays are so beautiful.
Fascinating piece. This piece.
So that looks like an embroidery. And
Yeah.
and I thought that's also different to kind of, it's interesting to see that some work is not just necessarily paintings on canvas. This brings a different genre, how children can also be creative as well. So through embroidery, through knitting. But again, this is so well done, even for a knitted piece, and it requires clearly a lot of thought to create a portrait out of it. So and at the end, it's very effective as well. So yeah, I like it. Yeah. This has similar to the baby, it has a lot of expression. And the expression can be the kid just woke up. Uh, and just deciding to do that is by itself just great. Rather than say, okay, I want to have a portrait that is completely, my hair has to be in place, everything has to be in place. No, the artist is definitely very raw and very truthful and very brave and just and that's definitely commendable to also not necessarily always portray yourself in the best of light, but also like, okay, now I woke up and I would like to make a painting of that. So again, the choices that are put into what the children were thinking when they created the artwork is very important. I felt that they need to be commended on that as well. Yeah. I like this one a lot. This is collage and drawing, and I felt like the layering of things on top of each other. All American Boy Next Door, I'm assuming, has a bit of also this nostalgic feel to it, like something you would have seen in the 1950s or the 1960s around the boy and his best friend, his dog, or and like what's like playing in the neighborhood, doing collectibles. It's a nice slice of a depiction of a boy's life.
Mhm.
So I like that, and the drawing is very well, nicely done. The line mark of the face, you can see he's very happy holding his dog, and then again, like different, I always say different takes of the boy's life, or in different. Yeah, I like it a lot. I think it's very honest. I think it comes through very beautifully. Um, the collage elements are very neat as well. Yeah. So similar. So I do think that I felt like there's, as I said, there was a strong batch of self-portraits that went beyond just a portrait. This one falls also in the surrealistic, almost like, wow, should I look? Should I not look? What is going on? So the swirliness of the noodles, but actually it's not noodles. It's wires. It's wires, and so it's like work. Yeah, you know. So we see it, but it's something else.
What
Uh,
imagination, huh?
lots of eyes happening. Yes. A lot of, again, violet tones, a lot of purple tones, blue tones. Beautiful. It has beyond, as I said, a pretty picture. It is more psychological, very thought-provoking. I think that's the right word. It's a very thought-provoking piece, which creates a lot of thought, and you look into it, and then you discover more and more as you go through and looking each section at a time.
Yep. And
One looks like I liked it. It's a happy piece. It feels like it's different rendering. Okay, again, some of the images that I've selected, I have the way the face is done is almost like a pointillism, but then the background feels like very like a wallpaper. So an interesting choice of doing different textures. So texture here is neat and comes through. And yes, young artists and artists in general need to know that playing with texture can really create different moods and give you a different feel when it comes to looking at artwork. Grumpy a little bit. Again, similar to the baby, creating a certain expression, but also yeah, someone just woke up, not in a good mood, perhaps.
yeah, you get
One can tell a lot of stories with these artwork, and that's what I like. And that's basically what art should do. It should speak to you, right? It should speak to you.
yeah, the portraits have been really powerful portraits. I mean, they have personalities and they have emotions,
Right.
So they're really quite good.
Big time personalities, right?
Yeah.
And this one is another like great, very nice close-up of fruit. I'm assuming it's an orange. Yeah, and that's strawberries, berry, raspberry on the side. And interesting, again, choice of saying I want to have a portion of it, not the whole thing, cropping it. So a lot of elements of composition
Yeah.
and thought, went into that. Like it.
Fascinating.
Similar to the map, where something is like crossing over the face, creating shadow, person's hiding, not hiding behind something. Also lavender and purple tones and blue tones are coming through nicely here. Yeah, again, the choice of saying I do the face painterly and the hoodie painterly, but the back looks like there's a collage as well, like a wallpaper. So that's an interesting kind of mix of two different elements that make it an interesting piece. Same with this one. So this is kind of similar to the All American Boy, where you've got the same person showing us different aspects of themselves. They love music, so you've got to see the records. They love to paint, so you see the palette. And that's kind of like what the world revolves around. The art and maybe the names of their friends, or even different things happening within their life. It's like it's almost like painting of jotting down ideas or like bringing what you're thinking. That's what it feels like. But yeah, very nice. It has feels like it has a circular tone feel to it, but also the records really help in creating that unity and the circular kind of movement within the piece.
Well, this is the last one, so I'm going to stop sharing now and just say you did a great job. And thank you so
Thank you.
much for spending the time to
Of
really
course.
talk about the work. For all of you that are out there listening to this, keep in mind that Vion is a teacher at the Yellow Barn. She teaches watercolor and drawing, and she's very popular. If you ever decide you need to have a course that you would like to study with her, she's a good one. All right. And
Thank you.
heard by her comments today how sensitive she is to art in general, and how much she sees in a piece of work, which I think really says a lot. We got to thank the Friends of the Yellow Barn. They're the ones who made this all happen. They, through the donations of the members, all right, the Friends. It's an organization that we have at the Yellow Barn. We're able to do this, and like I said, we gave away every one of those artists got a $25 gift certificate and to Plaza Artist Materials, and they also the first place winner got a $500 award. The second place winner received a $250 award. The 500 is from Plaza Artist Materials. The 250 is from Jack Fuller, whose wife Mitzi was a big supporter of the Yellow Barn, and each year he donates $250. So I think all in all, you know, and then the honorable mentions and so on, they all received quite a nice reward for their hard work. So with that, I'm going to say thank you all for listening, and you'll be able to pick this up on YouTube. It'll be up there, and review it. All right, and thank you, Vion, for
You're very welcome.
being so wonderful with this. I think if anything, that's one of the most important parts of working with you and the instructors of the Yellow Barn. We have a great community. All right, so